Welcome back to another Scouching report, and today we are taking a look at one of my most intriguing players in this year's NHL draft, Lynden Lakovic from the Moose Jaw Warriors. Now, I will fully admit, we have had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Lakovic over the course of this season for an episode of Game Tape that you can check out on our channel, and I came away with an extremely positive read on this kid. He is a really nice guy. He's a captain of a team for a reason, really smart, really calculated player who I think really wants to study and understand a lot of what there is to know about the game. And on top of that, he also happens to be a pretty good hockey player. So going into this analysis, this is a player that we've met and I personally really enjoyed talking to. So there's a bit of that going into this, but at the end of the day, what we're going to do is just take a look at some of the video of Lynden Lakovic and what he's done over the course of the season, some of the things he brings to the game, maybe some of the things that might need a little bit of work from here. So, just to get a little bit of maybe what some might call bias out of the way in the first place, this is a guy who I definitely feel like if I were to interview him for an NHL team, he might end up higher on my list than I think some other people based on how he came off to me. But before we get into the video, what is Lynden Lakovic as a player in a nutshell, right? For me, Lakovic is, as I mentioned earlier, just a very calculated, clever player who, he might not have the most incredible shot at the end of a play, but he is a guy who will study and read up about goaltenders and what weaknesses there might be for goaltenders and really work on hitting spots that he wants to hit. He's a player who is very lanky and tall, but not necessarily a particularly physical presence on the ice, but he reads play really well, and he does have really good reach that he uses really effectively to get around pressure, work around the opponent, and create plays for his line mates. And I think he's a player who on the wings really does a good job with his possession and puck protection ability, driving a lot of really good offensive ability that really was a huge part of Moose Jaw's offense over the course of this season. So Lakovic is a player who I think has a ton of upside, especially with some time and patience. And at the end of the day, I think this is a guy who will put in the work, put in the time, and just be a great person to have around. And I think there's a lot of value in that. So let's get into the video and specifically see what we're dealing with. So we're going to start with Lakovic's sort of skating ability and physical tools. And I think on this clip, the thing I kind of want to highlight is even though he loses kind of possession of the puck here a little bit, there's a few things going on that I really do like about Lakovic as a player. I think people kind of look at him and go, well, he's 6'4", he's not throwing a ton of hits, therefore there might be issues. But to me, he's more of a finesse player, right? So first of all, he just drives this guy wide, tries to beat him on the inside with raw speed and momentum. And the other thing too is Lakovic now does a really good thing here, which is a nice wide base to try to protect the puck from 13 here. And to me, this is something he did kind of all season long. He, makes a good attempt at protecting the puck, and he still manages to get the puck down low and try to create a cycle. So this is just a little hint of the type of player that we're talking about here, where he drives wide, picks a lane, takes the guy wide, uses a nice base to try to fend off pressure, and even if the results are kind of mixed, this is kind of what you're dealing with right off the bat. Now, Lakovic falls down at the end of this clip, so, hold your laughter, I suppose, but at the end of the day, I think Lakovic does a really good job just wheeling up, finding a lane, creating a lot of speed, generating momentum, and carving through the defense here. It's a nice cutback. If he doesn't fall down, he creates quite a good passing lane here for his opponent, or for his line mate to take advantage of, I would say. So Lakovic carries the puck in the offensive zone here, stops up, and assuming he's on his feet, you have a nice wide open lane here to exploit with 20 going to the net as well. So he's driving a lot of offense in transition, and that's also exemplified in the data. It's just, he doesn't stay on his feet. So it's too bad, but the right idea. This is another thing that I really love about Lakovic, which is sort of the quickness on his edges and also his small area passing. Like being able to turn off the boards like this against number 10 and then just thread a puck out into the scoring areas. It's a really good thing to see from Lakovic here, right? Like this spin off the boards again, and 37 I think does a really smart move here and just moves himself slightly this direction, makes himself a target, gets a pass and gets it off clean on net. Lakovic was a huge driver of offense while he was on the ice for Moose Jaw, and I think, this was a team that is not necessarily right at the top of the standings in the WHL, but they are a team that I think Lakovic drove the bus a lot, and it's these little small area passing plays that we're going to see more of that I think were a big driver of that. Lakovic draws a penalty on this play, but I love everything he does here, right? Again, a lot of young players I could see in a situation like this, you get the puck here, maybe he could slip it through to here, but I see a lot of guys just pop it on net here. But Lakovic does a really interesting thing, just pulls it through the lane of defensemen, and now he's got a bit of a cleaner lane to the front of the net, draws a hooking call from 91 there, but he keeps the possession of the puck, and then now he's in a bit of a pickle, right? You've got this guy pressuring him on Lakovic's strong side, his left-hand side of his body. So what do you love guys like this with this size? And again, look at the wide base on his legs here. He's protecting the puck well. He spins off the pressure and throws it out in front. Not completed perfectly, but on this play, draws a penalty, and I think does a lot of things right in creative ways. You know, like maybe there was a simpler play he could have made at this point, you know, with an open man here. But for him to be able to go, you know what, I'm going to try taking it this way to the net through those two defensemen, or two defenders, I should say, that are in their own zone, and try to make a play there. You get the penalty drawn, so that's a benefit, and then spinning off the pressure here is just lovely stuff to me. Here he goes again, right? Like, this is just Lakovic doing his thing. So Lakovic will get the puck on a little give and go here. He goes into the neutral zone, gets it across the blue lines into his own net, and a little spin pass right through the slot, right? This is the kind of creativity that I kind of alluded to at the top of the video, right? This is a guy who thinks interestingly about the game and uses his edges really, really well to just navigate around the ice in interesting ways and create opportunities. And again, the thing I love about plays like this, if you can pull it off, especially on your offside like this, he's a left-hand shot playing the right wing here. And so spinning off of this pressure, you know, kind of keeps it on his backhand, but it gives him a lane to sort of cut and create a passing lane there, as opposed to, you know, if he just stayed on his strong side here, maybe he tries to thread a pass through the guy here. It's a lower percentage play, I would argue, if this defenseman is any good, right? And there's not really much of a pass target right now. So good on him for not just popping it on net here, but really just kind of going for something a little bit more dangerous. And that is a threatening play. We've seen this already in this video before, but here's Lakovic just getting up the ice. And again, just a pass, like a beautiful backhand pass with great spatial awareness. This is what I kind of am talking about with just how smart he seems to be and creative, you know, just this ability to drag this pressure down low, and you have a man on your own team wide open, draw the pressure, backhand pass, create a scoring chance, and I love to see that kind of thing. This is what I love about big players too, when they are playing really good hockey to me. So Lakovic just makes a beautiful pass around the pressure here. And so he is a lanky guy, but he knows how to use it, right? But he uses his advantage in terms of reach, right? Yeah, you could make the argument, again, nice base, good, strong, foundational skating stride, but, you know, maybe he tries to flip a pass right now, right? Or he just waits a little bit and then uses his reach a little bit to create a bit of a different lane, and it leads to a goal. So for me, this is the kind of thing when I'm looking at bigger players, I want them to use their physical advantages to their advantage. And so this little extra length that he has to sort of change angles and wait a little bit more and thread the puck through different areas is an advantage that I think he exploited quite often this year. This is where I look at a guy like Lakovic and go, if the skating gets better and he gets a little stronger and generates a little bit more speed in those strides, he could be a really, really tough nut to crack in the NHL. Just the ability to power into the offensive zone here, drive a defenseman wide, and just fend off that pressure really well. It's not defended particularly well, but this is a thing that he's going to need to do in the NHL if he ever makes it, right? Like, this is going to be a situation where, yeah, you're going to want to drive down the wing, use your body to your advantage. So that would be great. So for me, I look at this and I go, the tendency is there. And if those strides can get a little bit stronger, a little bit longer, then I think we're going to be looking at a really scary possession guy here. So when I look at guys and how they play with some skill, it's about how you use it. And I think this is a really good example of a really good way to use your skill in a practical way. Just popping the puck through traffic here is something he does really, really well. So he doesn't necessarily deke complicated routes through the opponent. He just kind of puts the puck where the opponent isn't and just sticks with it and gets into a scoring area and gets a shot off. Again, the defending in the NHL will be more difficult than this, but he does seem to have a really good understanding of how to just get through a layer of defense, right? Like, not necessarily pull the puck around them or whatever, like we saw him spin off of a defenseman there, but a guy like Brady Martin has done this a lot over the course of this season too, where it's like, not necessarily that he dekes the pants off the player, but it's just that he sort of uses the flow of the puck and where the puck is to just get through guys in some way. So for me, this is another sort of high-end trait in terms of skill application that makes a big difference. I mean, this is just beautiful stuff from Lakovic. Again, showcasing so many things about him that I think are really valuable, right? Quick on his edges for a big guy, but then just good, strong edges cutting in there. Again, a really strong base on his feet. If he puts on some weight here and gains some strength, he's going to be a tough guy to stop, and I think it projects to the NHL really well. Just being able to cut through this pressure at his size and his length and all of those things, getting to the net like that, I love it. It's really, really good stuff. And, you know, I think it's a really good example of what could be a really interesting sort of modern version of a power forward. You know, for all the fun stuff that we've seen in terms of skill and all that stuff, I mean, Lakovic can also just grip it and rip it, right? This is a goal he scored that in one of the games that I tracked. He just, you know, gets a nice pass from a line mate and rips it. So there's that too in his game. This is another really good example of just the kind of puck protection that Lakovic has in his game, right? He's a big guy, but he uses it so well to his advantage, right? He's got the puck really well protected and insulated from this guy. He just sliced through these two defenders, and now he's going to cut to the net, right? I want to see guys going into scoring areas on the rush as much as possible, because the odds of you scoring by just popping it on the net once you get into the offensive zone are extremely low. And again, that puck protection has now, with that momentum, turned into basically a clean route right to the net for Lakovic. So watching it all back, I mean, Lakovic here just does such a good job of, you know, finding a way through that defenseman, and creating a bit of space and a bit of puck protection. And this is why when people kind of criticize me a little bit for not really liking big players, it's like, but I want big players to be able to use that to their advantage in some way. And I think Lakovic is a really good example of a finesse-oriented, bigger guy who just uses his body and his center of gravity and where he is keeping the puck and using his reach. The advantages that he generates from that, I think, are really, really good. This is another example of the exact same thing that I just said, right? His ability to sort of use his reach and protect the puck, you know, again, keeping the puck out this far from your body and making a pass, it just gives you more options, right? This length, it can make a huge difference, right? If the passing angle is here, if he's a little smaller, maybe that passing angle is more like this, and it's a lot more difficult, right? It's not a huge difference, but sometimes this is a game of inches, and a guy like Lakovic just gives you options, right? So to be able to, on the fly, be able to, you know, again, wide skating base, using it to his advantage, creating some room and threading the puck around opposing defensive structures. It's all good. It's just, yeah, he's a really, really smart applicator of stuff that makes you a good hockey player. More really good examples of Lakovic's pass vision here. He is doing a good job cutting to the net off the puck here, but then follows for support below the goal line there. And then a really nice quick thought, head up off the boards, puck in the front, and they almost got themselves a scoring chance. Or they did get themselves a scoring chance, but almost got themselves a goal here. So quick thinking, you know, he doesn't need to be the guy all the time. This is a guy who just has such good awareness around the ice, and I think does a good job supporting line mates. Even if he isn't the most physical guy in the universe, he brings so much to the table that I think render the lack of physicality in his game a little bit, well, much more meaningless, I would say. This is another example of Lakovic's patience on the puck. You might argue that there's a little bit too much patience here, and it's a bit of a low percentage shot, but this pass is timed beautifully as well, getting it right into the slot, making no mistake. I mean, again, it's a collection of things that are just applied in a really good way with Lakovic. Like the patience to wait and allow Swift Current to open that lane like that is really good. And very rarely did I feel like the opponent was much of a threat there, unless a rebound on this first shot from around the blue line is blocked and out into the neutral zone and it goes back for a rush the other way. That would be problematic. But following up, getting the puck back and putting it right back out in front is... and doing it in that way, I think, is also really, really impressive. And this is one of those things where I think Lakovic is, you know, a good sort of student of the game, because this goal is a reminder of sort of, you know, how guys who score goals at a really high level are often not just the guys that shoot the hardest, right? This is a really nice goal, just straight through the 5-hole of the goaltender. And I remember talking to Lynden and him saying things like, you know, I'm watching the body language of the goaltenders. You know, I'm really trying to see with their movements, like what little holes they're opening up. And he's like, I know that goaltenders under their arms, it's often a weak point. You know, if I see a hole in a 5-hole, I'm not going to try to put it, you know, top shelf. Like his goal is to score goals, right? And it sounds easier than it is, you know, but to be able to think on the fly like this and to sort of know, okay, I'm going to try to read this goaltender. I'm going to try to see how I can optimize my chance of beating this guy. It sounds like it's simple, but it actually kind of is not, especially at this level of play. So for him to have that habit and that line of thinking at this point is really, really impressive to me. And this is kind of another reason why I think there's a lot of headroom to develop with him. This is more about his off-puck play, and so I just kind of want you to keep an eye on Lakovic here and kind of the role that he's playing. Again, not the heavy physical guy on your team. I don't think that's what his job should be or is. But just again, open space there, and then a defenseman steps up, he recognizes it, now he's back near the blue line, doing good coverage around here, finds himself in open space, and then when the defenseman comes back, watch what he does, right? He's looping around, and he's going to take a route directly to the net. He's not floating around, he's not calling for a pass before he should, but it's a really good sort of sequence here off the puck of, things that it didn't mean anything in terms of the output of the game, but again, to take this kind of route, recognize that you have a line mate pinching up, and then filling the gap that is there when that line mate comes back is just smart. It's smart stuff, and it was just something I wanted to pull a clip of to showcase that his off-puck play also helps generate chances for himself and his line mates. This is another good example of sort of some off-puck reads that Lakovic is making. Again, he's not just constantly going and looking for contact and whatever, right? He's making reads here. He's sitting here watching where the puck is going, looking around, and then again, a defender steps up, and what does he do? He backfills, right? So on this dump out, if he's a step quicker or settles that puck just a little bit better, maybe he keeps it in the offensive zone there. But then again, on the entry, no mistake, quick pass. It's just good supportive play. He's a guy who I think off the puck you can trust to be supportive and in good spots. And I mean, he's got tons of space pretty much this entire sequence where he doesn't touch the puck until it's out of the offensive zone. But the point is sort of just how he's able to sort of watch what's going on around him, find little pockets of room, and try to make something happen and do it quickly. This is again really, really nice pass work here from Lakovic. He gets the puck, and again, instead of just popping it on net from here, which is not the worst place to shoot the puck from, he just makes a really, really nice pass here down low to Braden Yeager here and almost gets the puck back, but then he just sort of battles and maintains possession. So this is a guy who also does have I would say, competitive edge to him. He doesn't really just give up on plays. He's willing to go to the ice and try to make a play as he's going to the ice and all that stuff. So to me, I look at this and I go, okay, this is Lakovic also being a big guy who has the coordination and the vision to try to pull off a pass like this. So it's fine by me. So we're going to get into the more defensive side of the game here for Lakovic, which is not necessarily what I would consider like a strong suit of his game, really, but it's not bad. I think it gets a little bit overcorrected on. So Lakovic on this play is, again, in a good supportive position. If this puck comes up along the boards, he's there to pick it off, and he does a good job sort of trying to throw a hit there, knocking the play loose, but then, again, throwing a pass around the pressure, just changing to his backhand there, again, right? It changes the pass angle, right? Maybe he could try to get it into the slot here for sure, but this guy has a lot of momentum heading this way, so if he pulls on his backhand, he can get it off the boards and keep it down low, and maybe they can get a play from there. So good sort of habits there on creating contact, getting the possession of the puck, and quickly making a play that is safe but smart. This play highlights where I think a little bit more speed and efficiency in his skating would really go a long way. So again, just a good read in support. Lakovic, there's a turnover from the opposing team on the exit. He's there to pick it up, and not the best move to get through that guy, but that's a tricky situation, but he sticks with him, right? If every stride there is a little bit stronger and a little bit quicker, then I think he is a much, much more threatening forechecking guy here. Like, this is a player that I wouldn't want to develop as, okay, well, he needs to put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle because that's how you're going to make it work in the NHL if you're him. No, this is a guy that I probably would keep lean and efficient and skilled and mobile and really focus on that being paramount, because there's a lot going on here that I think if that trend continues and he uses his length to his advantage like he is, then I think you could have a really, really intriguing sort of skilled offensive player here that has some good off-puck ability. So again, the main thing defensively that I have really liked about Lakovic over the course of this season has been his off-puck reads and his ability to defend without needing to be physical, right? In this situation, he earns himself a scoring chance, and I could see a world where Lakovic, the expectation is you've got two guys here, the puck's coming out to the boards, hit him, pin them to the boards, try to cause some havoc or whatever. But no, he just takes a quick cut and gets in front of them and gets to the puck first. Like, the more you do this, the less you need to throw hits. And he did this all the time, and you'll see that in the data as well. So he doesn't just pop it on net immediately. He tries to get into the face-off circle, does so, and gets a scoring chance. So for me, it's the intelligence off the puck that I think really does him a lot of favors and a lot of good work. So that was evident every game I saw. So now we are going to get into some of the downsides of Lakovic's game, and definitely I will say there are moments where you definitely want him finishing checks more, right? This is a good example of that right away. I mean, he's not playing the body very hard here. Again, a little bit more efficiency in his skating, a little bit quicker, and really sort of coaching him to, in these situations, not just sort of play it a little softer, because This is a situation where I really would have liked him to sort of throw in a hit, because he just kind of skates right by the guy and they get their defensive zone exit easily here. Whereas to me, I'm going, yeah, we need a little bit more here from you. Finesse player, but sometimes you do want a little bit more out of him in this area. This is another one. Again, I'm not going to dwell too much on all of these examples because it's more of a pattern of a consistent thing. You just kind of, again, he's got the length and he's got the skating ability, so you kind of want him to just put it together and use it a little bit more in terms of like intensity and sort of defensive zone compete, I guess you could say. Not that I'm questioning, his overall competitiveness. I'm just saying that, bringing a little bit more energy here really, I think, would not only generate more turnovers, but also just kind of rally the guys you play with, right? Stick checks are cool and everything, but, letting guys get right through you, especially for being a guy this big, when it adds up over and over and over again, it might explain why people might be a little bit cooler on him when it comes time to actually drafting in the NHL draft. So this is another one where Lakovic is a little bit slow to read and get involved in the corner here along the boards to get to this loose puck. Just a little bit slow to react, and then not really enough energy or physicality to try to create a bit of a turnover here with Brandon. Just get involved a little more and try to, prevent this from being such a clean reception. If you back up a little bit here, this is a situation where if I'm sitting here as a coach and I see Lakovic with the puck here or towards the puck here and this guy's here, and Lynden doesn't even really cause any sort of contact at all, stick-wise or physically, that's a bit of an issue to me. And again, this is more of what the pattern was in the defensive zone especially. And again, I mean, I've seen guys in the draft this year who in this situation would probably absolutely deck the guy coming down the wing looking for the puck here, right? Lakovic has this guy lined up. This is Lakovic here. This is, northbound on a southbound freeway type thing, and he gives him a bit of a stick check softly in the hands. And again, it's like, I'm not that kind of person where I'm going, man, you're so big, so why don't you use it more? But in this situation, I'm going, man, you're a big kid, like, get in there, like, and now they have a cycle basically going down low. They end up causing a turnover anyway, Moose Jaw, but like in this situation, I'm looking at Lakovic and I'm going, I'm not looking for you to be the meanest guy out there, but this was an opportunity for you to really sort of do something in the defensive zone that would have really sort of caught some attention, but it just gets right through him. Yeah, and this is the last one, really. It's just, again, it's a pattern, right? This is something that I'm not, to me, this is something that I think coaches are going to sort of really want to get out of his game, and I think it probably will. I don't think Lakovic is a guy who's like afraid of this kind of thing. He's a guy who sticks with the play, but one of the things that I'm noticing watching all of these back is a lot of these issues that we're seeing are defensive zone oriented, but a lot of the really, really good stuff is on the rush and in the offensive zone, and in a sense that's a little bit excusable because he's a winger. But again, when you see the tools and the potential that he has, it takes me back a little bit to a different kind of version of what I thought of like a Kent Johnson back in the day, where I was a little bit critical of him in the video that I did, but it was because I saw so much potential there. It was like, if you just make plays a little bit quicker, if you just sort of try to simplify your game a smidge under pressure especially, you have so much potential to be just a high-end scorer. And with Lakovic, it's like if you just bring a little bit more at the defensive side of the game and defensively in the defensive zone, I think there could be the potential is huge for a really good 200-foot guy here with some good offensive potential. So the last thing I want to kind of go through with regards to an area of improvement that is a bit of a pattern is Lakovic just sort of settling the puck and that sort of fine motor skills, those fine skill moments on pass receptions and such were a little bit shaky from time to time. It's not something that I think there were individual plays where I can point to and break them down and go, oh my goodness, what happened here? But it's more of just a pattern of exit passes, just being a little bit handled not so ideally. There's other ones like this one where, again, on the exit, just settling the puck could make a huge difference. And then especially if you can't settle the puck, don't get turned around and get fall behind on a stick check or something like that, right? So there's a few clips here that I think highlight exactly kind of that fine-tuning finesse that I think Lakovic, when the play is a little more chaotic and not sort of under his control, might be a little bit lacking. And I think in this clip as well, it highlights how Lakovic also kind of just the passing, if he just takes a split second to corral that puck a little bit better, and put a little bit more power behind that pass, maybe it's a little more accurate rather than just, dumping it to the opposing team and sort of whatever. But to me, yeah, it's more just a pattern of those things with Lakovic where it's that comfort level and that reliability on pass receptions and all those things that I think are like one of the smaller things that I'd want to focus on between now and the NHL, whenever that is. Okay, and that brings us to the end of what I really have on Lakovic, both the positives and some areas of improvement. And honestly, I think there's a lot to this guy. I mean, I can see, and I think you could too, why an NHL team with, say, a top 10, 12, 15 pick might look at this guy as a winger and being lanky and not the most physical guy. And there are moments where you really want him to be a little bit more engaged defensively, and that's definitely true. But you got to be really careful of overcorrecting because of just what Lakovic does bring to the game. And I said it off the top of the video again, and it really sort of clicked once we talked to him a little bit and sort of got a feel for his personality and how he sort of sees the game and everything. Like, if there ever was, you know, a player that I've ever interacted with who reminds, you know, who kind of strikes me as a player who sees the game similarly to me, as far as I have experienced, Lakovic is probably the closest thing, right? Like, he just sort of sees things with regards to getting the job done and seeing what's ahead of him, anticipating it well, making good reads, and trying to chip in and just being efficient. Again, he's not the best dangler in this draft. He's not the fastest guy in the draft. He's not the most aggressive forechecker in the draft. He's not the most, I would say, anything really in this draft. But what he is clever with how he uses what he's got. And for me, with a player like this, it really just goes to show that, in my opinion, with development and time, yeah, I think you're going to end up with a player who just gets better and better and better and better and better as time goes on, as these sort of fundamentals get better. If you can get him to be a little bit more physical, especially in the defensive zone, that's a bonus. That's excellent, right? I think that borders on, based on where it is now, borders on a must. But as he is right now, again, like, there are so many clips of him, really good puck protection, really good resilience under pressure, really creative passing plays, really good sort of runs to the net with the puck, finding different routes to take the puck to the net, and really does a good job of really just going out and playing the game, especially offensively, really efficiently, right? And for me, that's really, really important, and it's why I have Lakovic really, really high. With regards to his analytical performance this year, I mean, it overall is one of the better profiles I have available. You know, he's a guy who I think almost across the board just drove really, really good results. 70% efficiency in offensive transitions with 40% involvement, you know, elite puck carrying results, highly reliant on pass receptions. And I would say being successful on 2/3 of those is good, but could be better, especially with some of these skill refinements. But at the end of the day, I mean, he was pretty good passing the puck in transition as well. Relatively reliable passer. I'd say it's about average. But again, with regards to his shot attempts, he was taking 1/3 of his team's shot attempts when he was on the ice, and only 27% of them were low danger attempts, right? If you take all of Moose Jaw's shot attempts with him on the ice, he was responsible for 51% of them, so that's including shot assists. And if you only look at the times where he shot from medium and high danger areas, 24.4% of the shot attempts were Lakovic from scoring areas, right? So he drove a tremendous amount of shot first offense for this team with good rates of shot assists as well. And I think there's a lot to improve here, you know, with some skill refinements and some more experience. And the other thing I wanted to note here too is that offensive zone turnover rate of over 12, which is again really, really good. And I think that a lot of that comes from not necessarily throwing hits in the offensive zone. You'll note his hit value is pretty low, but you'll note that a lot of this in the video, you can helpfully tell, is from off puck reads and supporting line mates and really waiting for the opponent to make a mistake or taking advantage of an errant pass or just finding himself in open space and capitalize on a situation that presents itself. So overall, his analytical profile is really, really, really good. And I would say pretty much across the board, I don't think there's anything that is a one level category for me, but everything is pretty much an A. You know what you're getting with him over the course of a game. You know what you're getting. You can believe in what he gives you generally. It's just, for me, that inconsistency off the puck, especially in the defensive zone, might be a bit of a hole that could be a problem, but I don't think it's as bad as I think some are portraying it. And I think that this is a guy you're betting on the smarts. You're betting on his future. You're betting on his willingness to learn and adapt and get better and quicker and more skilled and all that stuff. The fundamental baseline, I think, with how he sees the game, how he plays when he's on the ice, I think it's all really, really positive. And so for me, yeah, he's a really, really talented player. He's stayed at the top of my list pretty much all season long, you know, floating around the top 12. I couldn't see him on my list being any lower than he is today as of today. You know, a guy who was involved in 45% of his team's point production, you don't find those every day. So for me, really good player, really enjoyed him, really loved meeting him, really fun guy, and I hope for the best. So with all that, that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked it, definitely like and subscribe to the channel. If you really loved what we do and you want to support us directly, please go to Scouching.ca and consider a subscription where you'll get access to all kinds of fun stuff at any tier, like our Discord server, data tools, visualization tools, data tables, early access to our videos, and all kinds of other stuff. So you can check that out at Scouching.ca. And with that, thank you very much. We'll see you in the next one.